Okay. Okay, so over to Roopa.
Thank you. So welcome to episode 1, series 1 of Roopa Vyas-Smith does coffee chai chat, or quite simply, hashtag RVS does hashtag CCC. Now, I'm really getting into these hashtags, but quite honestly, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got no clue at all. So it's really hilarious. But anyhow, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the idea behind this YouTube show. And it really stemmed from the challenges that I was doing for my birthday fundraiser for the Trussell Trust, which some of you viewing this may have seen. The Trussell Trust's mission is to stop UK hunger. And just to give a little plug before we get onto the topic today, I have a fundraising page on both Facebook and on Virgin Giving. It remains open until the 15th of March. I will put the link in the comment section on the YouTube video. So if you still wish to donate, you've got another week or so to do so. The 15th of March is a significant date for me and relates quite well to this topic today. It's the 14th anniversary of my mum's passing. She passed away on the 15th of March 2007 of pancreatic cancer. So why this show and why now? It's a question I've asked myself, and no doubt a question you may ask. As I was completing the challenges for a number of reasons, I found myself experiencing a huge range of emotions. And when the challenges ended, it felt like it was important for me to be brave and I suppose undertake another project, which sort of resulted in the birth of this show. Now, I remember as a young person in my 20s, there was a part of me that wanted to host a show where I met people and just shared what it meant to be human in all its richness, rawness, pain, and pleasure. And at the time, we're talking about, 25 years ago, I really wasn't brave, confident, or perhaps even articulate enough to explore this further. At least that was my perception at the time. And we know perceptions can be very powerful, if not always accurate. So as I turned 50, I thought I'm okay with rolling up my sleeves, getting out there on the field to play rather than sitting as an audience member, getting on that pitch and just seeing what happens. And it's amazing, quite honestly, what circumstances can surface within us. So honestly, I don't know how this is going to go, this show, how many gaffes I'll make. I may fall flat on my face, but either way, what I know is how important it is in one's life to try and keep trying to do your best. And that is good enough. So I'm okay, genuinely, with a failure or a success of this, because what I know now at the ripe old age of 50, and believe me, it's taken me time. I'm a real slow but sure bloomer, shall we say. I know that I'll be okay either way. So let's get on to the topic today that we're going to discuss. It's the human grief experience. And over the course of the next 30 to 40 minutes, you'll get to meet two amazing friends and guests who ordinarily I would have invited to come over to the flat I share with my husband, Rich. My idea originally was that we would have sat round on the sofa, having some tea, refreshments, snacks, nasto, as we call it in Gujarati, because every good Indian home has to have some nasto, let's face it. And we would have just talked about our experiences, but obviously this isn't possible right now, given the circumstances we find ourselves in. So Zoom has been great for this. And also, both my friends' guests aren't actually in London. One is actually out of London and one is actually out of the country. So lucky we have this technology. I'd like to just make it clear that neither I nor my friends and guests are professional experts in the field of grief. However, what we are experts in the field of our own grief experiences. And that's what each of us would like to share a little of today with you and, of course, with each other. So let's start. Both guests have bravely agreed to share some aspects of their journey through grief, whatever they feel comfortable doing. And by the time you watch this, please note, will have been recorded on Zoom earlier today. There will be no edits, as I don't know what will surface from us. And quite honestly, I don't know how to edit things anyway. So there we go. What I'll do is I will ask each participating and each person who may watch this just to be respectful and supportive of the road the others are on, because grief, we all have our own journey through it. There may be some similar emotions, but everybody's pathway is different, and that's something certainly I've come to learn sharing this with friends and family. So I'll introduce both Rowan and Leo, as you can see here on screen shortly. And they will say a little line or two about their loved one that they have lost, who's affected them deeply. And I will then ask a series of questions that each of us will answer in turn. And I'll also participate in that, because I do feel it's important as a host to show my human quality in this and to share what my experiences have been. So my first guest, I'm going to do age first, is lovely Rowan. She is the wonderful daughter of a dear friend of mine. And I've seen Rowan grow up into this extraordinary, beautiful and talented young woman. She's just completed her master's in global media culture, and her final project, which I saw a few weeks ago, was on grief and bereavement, and it was brilliant. Her share with us today on the topic of grief is around the passing of her beloved father, Alan, when she was 9 years old. So welcome, Rowan.
Hello.
Thanks for being with us today. How are you feeling, firstly?
I'm feeling okay, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to just ask to begin with is what else you might like to share with us by way of introducing yourself further, and perhaps what encouraged you to want to be part of this conversation today?
I feel like I want to be part of it because obviously as you mentioned, I did my project about grief and social media and stuff like that. And it's just like a further, I'm a very strong believer that this kind of stuff should be talked about, because it's one of the rare things that does actually happen to everyone and everyone will experience, yet not a lot of people talk about it. So I want to be part of any conversation that could help others going through the same thing.
Thank you, Rowan, and it's so lovely of you to join us today. I'm very grateful that you have. My second guest and dear friend is Leo. And Leo today is zooming in from sunny Kenya, where he's currently for work. In fact, my parents are both originally from Kenya, so it's great that he's here with us today. And Leo and I met almost 14 years ago. We just hit it off. We've been firm friends ever since. Just a little background on Leo. He's the founder and entrepreneur of YS Yoga, Yoga Sphere, and Harley Street Psychology Practice Future Mind. He's been practicing yoga and helping his clients transform their lives since he was 21, the tender age of 21. Now, his loss and grief, which obviously he will share what he feels he can, is around the passing of his nephew, Kai, who was 4 years old when he passed away. Welcome, Leo. It's great to see you today. How are you?
Very good, thank you. And it just feels like we're there in your living room, and you're sort of feeding us a kind of complete, array of the usual gifts we all get when we're in your house. So although we are connected digitally, it doesn't mean there's not that bond in this conversation. And firstly, I want to thank you for, as I guess as a healing quality, to open the space and to hold the space. Often when it comes to grief, it's about how we feel safe to talk about it, and people handle it in different ways. And just want to thank Roopa for holding the space for us to have this conversation. Losing Kai, how we often think of the spirit as if it's like individual and then connected etherically to the greatest, I guess, almighty, whatever we believe in. And we are these small units of consciousness, and there is some connection to this larger concept, which we all live and we die and so on. But frankly, I guess just, losing Kai was almost like you really felt like you lost a fragment of your spirit. And that fragment fitted somewhere with the etheric highest point. And so that's kind of what I feel that Kai, this lots happened, but that kind of feeling of it does really affect you. It's not something like, you have a cold, or, you had the first strain, the second strain of COVID-19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's not any of that. It's like, have you sort of felt this pain, and resolving that this person will never be there, and that grief and what that story does to you. I think that's what I feel coming to me. Mixture of emotions, as you would have shared.
Thank you.
That's all my words, by the way. I've run out of words now. I thought I'd just put it all in the front.
That's great.
And Sunday, the rest of it.
I appreciate that so much. And we all come with our own ways and our own styles. And that's particularly why I wanted to have both of you here today for the first sort of session of this show, because I knew both of you would bring a huge richness to this dialogue. So thank you. I'm really conscious as well, just to say that it's a sensitive and emotionally charged topic, and it can be quite painful as well. So what I request for a first share from each of you is a memory that you have of your loved one that's passed that makes you smile or even laugh. So let's start with you, Rowan.
It's hard because I was quite young when my dad died. I don't really remember a lot, but I think that the things I remember the most are like when I was little, like playing with my dad, and we'd have this game where like he'd have like his keys by him and he'd pretend to be asleep, and I had to like nab the keys and he, like if he woke up he'd like chase me or whatever. So like those are like the nice memories that I have that I think about. I also have other things that like my sisters told me and my mum's told me as well, which is, even though I don't remember them myself, at least I have those kind of things, like just little things that I think about, like, oh yeah, that's definitely something my dad would do. Like he stopped reading me Thomas the Tank Engine because in one of the trains gets boarded up in a tunnel, and he was like, I don't want to be promoting this to my child. So he stopped reading it to me. So yeah, there's just, these little things that like build what I can remember of my dad. So yeah.
That is wonderful. Thank you. And what lovely memories you have to treasure there that sit with us for that, for that time. And that's great. Thank you. And Leo, for you, a memory that's made you smile or laugh when you think of Kai?
Often with childhoods, there's so many fun things you do, and it's actually harder to choose than a fun memory you had with an adult, because you can say, well, I was last happy with my girlfriend, a year ago. But kids, you can't say that beyond a day. You can't say, you're like, well, the memories are so pervasive. So it's probably the toughest question of the night, actually, Roopa, and you've gone straight in there. Choose one memory that's happy from a 4-year-old beautiful child that really shouldn't have died. Kai died of his public medical negligence. So it was something that really shouldn't have happened, and that's part of what was difficult for us. Is but the joy when you strip through all the sort of heaviness of that. And I thought of one particular thing. It was that he used to go and hug walls. He used to go to every room and kiss the wall and kiss the wall and dash into another room and kiss the wall and run down the stairs and kiss the wall and follow the family dogs and kiss the wall. And literally he would just kiss the walls. And when we stopped him once and we said, "What are you doing, Kai? You're running into every room kissing walls." We thought, if we don't handle this, I mean from a kind of Freudian perspective, it could be a bit awkward if he was an adult, if he starts off by kissing a wall, right? You'd be like, what is that? So we were like, as a family, like, why is he kissing the walls? Why is he kissing the walls? So mum, my grandma, Amachi, my mum, she went to him and she says, "Kai, what are you doing?" He said, "I'm blessing all the rooms."
Oh.
I'm blessing all the rooms. So he heard my mum say something about blessing, and he was just blessing all the rooms. And I just thought, what a great ascended master he was at even 4 years old.
Oh my goodness me. I mean, he was an old soul in a very, very young body, wasn't he? That is extraordinary. I love that story. And what a lovely thing for you and your family to cherish and remember. I mean, that is just wonderful. A memory that I will share is when I was about, and obviously there are so many, as you know, there are with our loved ones, but I remember when I was about maybe 15, 16, my mum taught me how to roll chapatis. And there's a specific rolling pin, a sort of an Indian rolling pin, which some people may have seen, may not have seen, and it's quite different from the standard, you know, sort of same thickness rolling pin that we would normally associate. Everybody's technique for rolling chapatis is obviously slightly different, and people kind of like different thicknesses, but ordinarily they are quite thin. And I used to watch my mum as a young person rolling them so quickly, all the same thickness and round shape of the same size on a regular basis, because you know, my parents were very keen that we would always have dinner together as a family every night. So when she taught me, she used to say, "Okay, Roop," and Roop was her nickname for me. Obviously, my chapatis to start with were not round in shape. And so she used to say to me, "And what country shape are you going to roll today? Instead of round earth, is it going to be Africa or India or Australia?" And I used to howl with laughter, as did my mum, because to perfect it, it looks very easy, but I can guarantee you it is not easy to roll round chapatis when you first start. So my mum, you know, she was a master chef in Gujarati cooking and other things she experimented with. And that was just one of so many memories that I remember giggling at as a teenager. And it took me several years before I could roll round chapatis. But the reason why sort of that came to me is because sometimes it's the smallest things, as all three of us have mentioned, that can have, you know, a very lasting impact actually in minds and memories of our loved ones. So thank you both for sharing your experiences. Now on to perhaps a more deep and challenging few questions. I'd like to ask you if you do remember, and maybe you don't, and maybe family have shared with you, because I know obviously, Rowan, for you, you were very young when Alan, you know, passed away, but to think about and share with us whatever you can, both of you, about what was going through your mind, if you're able to recall the first few days after the passing of your loved one. So maybe I'll start with Leo first. Leo, what do you remember the first few days after Kai passed away?
You know, time grief are very interesting things, because generally when we live, every day we're reflecting things about the day, what we're going to do later, what we're going to do, what we did yesterday. But when the moment someone dies, I held it together. I was teaching a yoga class, and I totally held it together because I found out right before teaching it, and I had my sister who didn't lose her child, one of my sisters, literally wailing, telling me, you know, Kai had died. Then immediately I actually spoke to my sister Michelle, and she was really calm. And she said, Leo, your customers have come to do yoga with you. If you're okay, please go and teach the class. And I went and I taught the class, and I taught it like as any other class, you know, almost you do what you're going to do because you know someone's died already. But I continued because you don't always have, when you're in front of a lot of people all the time, you don't always have a space where you can just go, oh, he's died, right? So I carried on teaching. And then after my class, I left my class, I literally went through the tube, and it was in Waterloo Station. I met my then fiance, and just she held me in my arms, and I literally just collapsed on the floor sorry, that's some wild birds. It's just, I don't know, it's I'm not editing, I'm not like DJing here for effect. No. These are actually some wild parrots. So I literally I melted to the floor, and I just sobbed and I sobbed because I was like, he's gone. And you know, she just held me, and then we got on the train, and then obviously with the family. And then when you go past that, you go into this weird state of alertness, things to do. Everything becomes about to do this and call this person and do this, to do. And then you're doing all these things, these tasks, but actually all the while you keep getting playbacks of memories of them. So those 3 days, Roopa, is a haze. It's a haze of not just a blur, but this alert points, these emotional, tumultuous points, these points of holding it up, points of melting down, being angry, all these emotions in 3 days. So the memories of it are just like, was it 3 days? Was it 3 seconds? Was it 3 years? That's how I feel it was for me.
Yeah, that's I can really hear that, and I think that's a very powerful image as you were talking that I'm sort of, you know, conjuring up in my mind of how it was for you and kind of relating that to my own experience. And Rowan, you know, I'm not sure what you would remember, or whether it's things that, you know, your mum, grandma at the time, lovely Maria, and other family have shared with you. But if you wanted to share with us what you might remember or recall a few days during the time that Alan passed away.
Yeah, it's a very vague. I feel like I remember feelings a bit more than what actually happened. Yeah. But it was a weird time because, like, my dad had dementia when he died, so he was in a home, and I remember not fully, because they didn't really know it was dementia, like, at the time. You know, there were suspicions of different explanations, whatever, and being very confused because I was so young, and I was still, like, all my friends were my age, they're not going to understand what's happening. I barely understood what was happening, really. And on the night he died, my mum got called into the hospital, and I was just to stay. Remember, my dad's friend, well, like family friend, Mike, came round to look after me, and Nonna was there, my gran, and I just remember my mum coming home crying, and I knew what it meant, and I knew what it meant for someone to die, but, like, you don't expect it to happen to you at that age, and it didn't really happen to anyone else I knew. And then after that, all the days kind of blurred into one. I don't remember much of it. I remember the funeral, but barely, just little tiny parts of it. I think, like, the part that I probably remember the most is, like, my mum coming home on the night that he died, and it just being really late. And I remember snooker being on the telly, because that's always on when it's really late. And I can't even tell you how I felt because I honestly don't remember. Like, it's very strange feeling to have such a big thing happen to you, but not remember hardly any of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've encapsulated, you know, what a 9-year-old, what would go through, as you say, their feelings, their head, their heart, their mind in the best way that you absolutely can, Rowan. And as I said before, you know, your final project that you did for your masters was just extraordinary on grief and bereavement. And, you know, I can imagine with the loss of somebody, you know, a loved one, and you being such a young age, the kind of profound effect that that's had. And, you know, I mean it with my heart and soul, saying, you know, you've become an extraordinary young woman, and I know Alan would be so very proud of you. So I just want to say that. Thank you for sharing that. So for me, there have been a number of losses that I've experienced, and one of the most profound was, as I mentioned, 15th of March 2007, the passing of my mother. She passed away from pancreatic cancer. It was about a year from her diagnosis to her passing. The last few hours, she was in bed surrounded by immediate family. We played one of the songs that she loved, and on mum and dad's CD player. And her last breath came at almost the end of that song. And what struck me at that moment in time, I was 36 at the time, was it was almost like the end of this beautiful symphony. There was joy and pain. There were the crescendos. There were those moments of kind of just melodic interlude. And then there was an ending. I was relieved she wasn't in pain anymore. I was so relieved. Her deterioration was very quick in the last week. And I knew consciously that we had to let her go. But my emotions stood in between what I can describe as sort of numbness and sheer desperation. That's what I kind of recall at the time, and I blocked that out. And I can relate, Leo, to what you were saying about, you know, you just go into do mode. That's what suddenly happens. You go into that sort of mode. Family, we rang family to let them know. It was later on a Thursday evening. They all came back to the house, paid their respects. My mum's youngest sister, Krishna, she had come to see mum, and mum had, what I would say, hung on to see her sister, to say goodbye before she passed away. Krishna was staying with us, and over those few days, people were coming in and out of the house. We were sharing meals together. I felt so grateful for all the family around. I come from a very large family on both sides. Mum was one of 7, dad one of 7. And just having that time, you know, with lots of people around, felt, you know, sort of very, very powerful. I remember the day after mum passed. Actually, let me just rewind, because it's just a thought that's coming to me now. A few days before mum passed away, one of the Macmillan nurses came from North London Hospice, and mum had at that point needed a syringe driver to administer her morphine, which eventually slips loved one, mum, slipped her into a coma, and she passed a few days later. And they had arranged for Mary Curie nurses to come to the house and spent the last 4 nights with us. And either my brother, my dad, or my mum, or myself would sleep in the same bed as my mum while the Mary Curie nurses were doing waking nights. The day So when she passed away, one of the Mary Curie nurses, the one who was with us that night, she passed. We changed mum into this lime green Punjabi dress, I remember. So we changed her out of what she was wearing into a Punjabi dress. I found that extremely painful. And the next day, our family doctor, Dr. Frost, Millway Medical Practice, an amazing doctor, an extraordinary person, came and certified mum's passing with another doctor from the practice. And I can't explain the difference actually that this made when family are grieving, you know, to have a, you know, sort of a family doctor come and do this. Then the funeral directors came and collected mum, and seeing her leave the house was like no other pain I can explain, quite honestly. Then the various arrangements. We have a tradition within the Hindu culture that family members go to the funeral home and dress, you know, the loved one dress mum in clothes. She had chosen what she wanted to wear. She had shared various things with me, which was another painful dialogue we'd had a few weeks earlier. She'd kept everything ready. She knew she was dying. And the funeral came and went a few days, and I managed to muster up the strength to sing at my mum's funeral. I sang a version of Candle in the Wind that I changed the lyrics of and, you know, adapted to fit the words around my mum. I stayed strong for several weeks, and then I just completely lost it. I broke down completely. I'm somebody who does tend to have a delayed reaction to things. But what I can say, just to finish this question up, is here I am 14 years later, feeling braver and stronger than, you know, than I've ever felt. And my mum is always with me, and I can access her whenever I need to. And that's because, you know, we all go through that grief journey, and we all have different things that happen to us. And I'll share a little more when we talk a little bit more about the other questions that I'm going to ask. But that was my experience. So to ask both of you now, what helped you during the grief process, or is continuing to help you, and maybe what didn't help? So maybe Rowan, if I can start with you first.
Yeah, I think one of the main things that helped me was going to counselling, just to talk to someone who has no idea, like never met anyone involved or anything. It's like just there for you to share your feelings with. And I've had counselling since my dad died, like, so through high school, through college, through university, I've had counselling. And I probably will continue to, because it's not like it won't fix anything, but it's a good maintenance way to maintain your emotions and things like that. I think also, I don't know, I think I found it hard to talk about like my dad and stuff like that, because like, as I said before, I don't remember a lot. And I think what's also helped, like as my friends have got older, I've been able to talk to them as well. Talk with my mum has become a bit easier, because I was always reluctant, because even though, you know, we've gone through, well, not exactly the same thing, but, you know, similar experiences, but with the same person, losing the same person. But I was always reluctant because I was afraid of like upsetting her, like me talking about, I didn't want to upset her or anything. So, but as I've grown older, we've been able to have those kind of discussions. Stuff that doesn't help, I think even though I've said that counselling is helpful, I think that I was not pushed into it, but I started a bit too young. Like I didn't understand. I think you have to be ready, completely ready to start that. So I think it wasn't very beneficial, because I had it quite soon after that my dad died. I think my school was really unhelpful, like because my dad died when I was in year 5, it would have been into year 6, and I don't know if it's any better now, but my primary school and high school just didn't talk to each other, and because it didn't happen in high school, there was like no support for me at all. And as I was going through, teenage years are horrible. Well, not for everyone, but it's not a good time for it in general. And I was still going through grief and everything, and it's still getting processed because as a child you can't really process it because you don't understand it. And yeah, so that was not in that I had not a great time at high school, and I think that was a lot of the reason. And I don't know, I just don't think there was the support in there. They didn't have anything in place for me. A lot of the teachers just didn't know my situation or anything. And when they did know about it, I don't know, it's just, I think if I had that support there, then maybe it would be a bit easier for me. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really important to have shared. I mean, obviously, as you say, the counselling was very helpful, and I'm a great believer and an advocate of counselling, obviously at the right stage and at the right time for each individual, which I completely understand. I don't know how schools are now, but obviously it is important that teachers and schools have an understanding of what the bereavement process is for young people, because there will be so many young people that go through that process at your age, younger, older. And so I really hope the school system has brought in this as part of perhaps a training for teachers. So maybe in the comments, anybody who's watching this wants to share a little bit more about that with us. It'd be really interesting to see, because it's a very important point that you raised, Rowan, and thank you for that. And Leo, for you, what helped and what's helping now, and what you didn't you find helpful?
Okay, what I found helpful at that time felt like nothing, actually. It felt like, I don't know if it was how my character was then, but I really didn't take it too easily to be helped, because I never wanted to feel helpless. And grief just throws that out of the equation, right? It's just, like, it really, what did help was consoling people in a weird way. Even if I made myself the very last of the queue, it really helped to carry and help others with their pain, because I felt I could hug my mom, or I could wipe the tears off my sister's face, or I could be of some sort of service, and that in a weird way helped. Although I think long term it did more damage, because you're there wanting to help everyone be okay, and then you're not okay, and then people are like holding white flags, red flags, burning flags, saying, "Hey, is anyone in there? Is the person I've always known in there?" And grief kind of goes inside you, and it's weird, So it's that really helped, actually, just being there. And what didn't help was actually spending way too much time with myself. Actually, I felt there was a time to just be on your own and so on. But I actually felt that when I was on my own, I just replay, how did it happen? And what if we did this? And what if we noticed that? And then there's a huge amount of kind of gaslighting within. If I was a better this, if I was there more, and I hope I'm being there enough. And all these sort of perturbed questions that are not clear cut. So that's kind of what it was like for me. That was difficult when I spent time with myself. So I think everyone wants to idolize grief, and you take time, take this space, but what does that actually mean? Sometimes when you're on your own, it's like in the beginning stages, and I wish I did what Rowan did. I really wish I just spoke to someone, and that's not family. And I'm a real advocate of that. It could be a tree, yeah, Roopa?
Yeah.
It could be a tree we're talking to. And in fact, I think that's what we did in Goa, right?
Yeah.
Before you ate the mushroom. Just kidding.
All the secrets being revealed.
but I mean, I just think, just get it out, you know, but not right away, not immediately. So I'm sorry I'm not giving black and white answers, but they kind of, it all sort of it melts in, you know.
No, the answer is perfection, because grief, as we know, isn't black and white. You know, it's all the shades of grey. It's the swings in between, and it's you know, we can feel the pendulum from one side to the other, but you know, somewhere it sits inside us in all these different shades. And I think it's very interesting, because what I know of you, Leo, I'm not surprised that, you know, you got that sort of solace from comforting others and being there for others, because that's your way of you know, offering support. And really good that you recognized actually that maybe not being on your own was a good thing, but that maybe that opening up of what was going on for you needed to be tapped into at some point and explored, which I know you've done. I would certainly say, I mean, when my mum passed away, I was offered some counselling through the North London Hospice, which I took up, and I found that hugely beneficial. I found looking at photos extremely painful, but helpful. Crying, I did a lot of crying. I talked to others, and I've got a number of friends that are like family, and family that are like friends, who I felt I could really just share and be myself with. And who knew, or who knows what comes out. You know, the kind of real ugly crying, the crying when the snot's coming out of your nose, you can't find a tissue, somebody doesn't want to give you a tissue because they just want you to be and feel whatever you're feeling. On a practical note, I had started a part-time job just a couple of months before my mum passed away, and I was really blown away because as part of the Hindu tradition, we have a number of days of mourning, 12 days of mourning, and the charity that I was working for gave me paid bereavement leave for 12 days after working with them for 2 months, and it was extraordinary. That was such a lovely thing to do, and on a practical level, you know, who would do that now? But it was an amazing organisation, Barnet Care and Support Services, and they then merged with another organisation whom I worked for a number of years. But that gave me some space just to be with my family, be in that family environment. Listening to music sometimes helped, sometimes it didn't. Sometimes I just wanted to scream at music. I just wanted to tell it to kind of F off and just, you know, the world goes on and you're going through this terrible time, and how can it? Why isn't the world stopping? I remember, you know, kind of thinking all those kind of things. Meeting friends for coffee was sometimes just nice. Even sitting in silence sometimes was nice, with people that just held your hand and held your heart in a way that, you know, you can't describe. And I suppose, you know, it took me a good 2 years probably until I felt like I could talk about my mum without just bursting into tears, quite honestly. So everyone's experience is different, but yeah, I think the other thing that helped me and continues really is people talking about mum. Sometimes there's a feeling that people have that if they talk about your loved one, you're going to get terribly upset. But actually, it's the reverse. Not for everybody, and which I completely accept, but I think talking about that person, that loved one, keeps them alive and makes you realize how much they were loved and valued and appreciated by other people too. And so, yeah, that's what I can think of at the minute. Okay, thank you both. So where are you now with processing this? I mean, you know, grief just doesn't go away. We learn to live alongside it. We find peace so that, you know, it sits with us, but we carry on. We don't just survive, we thrive. And honestly, from what I know of both of you, you are thriving in your respective lives. Yes, we all have challenges, and yes, different things happen in our lives, but you know, having gone through something both, you know, really quite profound, for both of you, where are you now with your grief? Where does it sit? What are you thinking about it right now? And may I start perhaps with Rowan first?
Um, I think I'm at the point where I can talk about my dad without getting upset. Like, I agree with what you're saying, Roopa, about people talking about the person, your loved one, helps a lot. And I remember, like, when I was younger, feeling, oh, am I ever going to be able to talk about my dad without getting upset? And I am at that point now. I've got pictures all around my room of me and my dad, because I can actually have them up now without feeling upset about it, you know, having those memories. And I think that I'm still, it's just an ongoing process. I think the grief is, I think there's like a, you know, the phrase of moving on and things like that. I don't think that you ever really move on from it. It's not something to move on. I think, you know, they, you know, they say that time heals, and I don't think it does in a way, not fully heals, but it is interesting to see how much time can, and the passage of time can help, and how your body and your mind deals with it. I think, yeah, so I'm still processing it, I feel, and it's an ongoing thing. And I think it's more now just random days where I'll be feeling it. It's a weird experience because it's something that's been, for the majority of my life, like, I've lived my life more without a dad than with one. And I think, like, there's also other things that have come into it, that because it happened when I was so young, there's like developmental things that I've struggled with, emotional things, feeling like sometimes that I'm still in that like childlike state, almost like from like some part of, you know, I've grown up and mature in some aspects but not in the others. So it's not just like the feeling of grief, but how that's affected me, like growing up, and how I'm maybe different from other people who have not experienced that so early in their lives. So yeah, there's just like all those other things to think about now when I'm older and reflecting on that. But overall, I think that it's just something that you kind of learn to live with, and accept that it's part, you know, this has happened to you. You've lost someone very close, like, that you loved a lot. And I think now that it does help when to think that I'm doing stuff that my dad would have been proud of me for doing, and, you know, pursuing like the art side or media, you know, we're all as a family very into that kind of thing, and you know, I'm doing it for that, and it's a huge shame and very sad that he doesn't get to see me do it. And now I think I feel most sad like on big occasions like Christmas, or like big life things, like, you know, when I graduated and things like that. So yeah, I think, you know, I'm just, you know, dealing with it and trying to get through my life, as well as feeling, you know, still feeling the grief as well.
Yeah, I think it's very profound what you say, Rowan. And yeah, and I don't think anybody ever moves on. You know, what does that actually mean, really? I think you do live with it. It sits with you. You do carry on and do, you know, and you've certainly done amazing things. And like I said before, your dad would be incredibly proud of you. You know, I certainly remember Alan is very creative and your mum extremely creative. And so, you know, to be taking this forward. And of course, you know, you are you know, your mum and dad you're a part of them, you know, you come from them. So this is very much in line with how, you know, you would be and grow going forward. I think you made a really profound statement, and I just wanted to pick up on this, about the thing about feeling sometimes like there are child parts of you and, you know, the adult parts of you. I can totally relate to that. I think at 36, I felt like I really grew into the woman that I am today, strangely, when, you know, my mum passed away, because up until then, for whatever reason, there were certain parts of me that hadn't necessarily developed and grown. And that's another conversation perhaps for another time. But when you said that, that brought up something within me that I could completely relate to. For all of us, we have, not very many of us go through all those developmental stages at that, well, at 3 you do this, and at 6 you do this, as a teenager you do this. Mine was very topsy-turvy, Rowan. I'm, you know, right there, I put my hand up. But, you know, at some point in time, actually what you learn and who you become, I mean, you know, it's extraordinary. And I see that in you, and I know your mum does. So, you know, I encourage you to keep going ahead with your dreams. I really do. Leo, what about you? Where are you right now with processing the passing of your beloved nephew Kai?
Do you know, the thing that I found that was really very, very consistent about grief is that it teaches us the lesson of impermanence, that nothing is permanent. And so, frankly, little things die every day, right? The moment, the seconds you live, the minutes that pass, you know, our skin flaking off,
Yeah.
you know, hair growing less here and more out of your nostrils. Things, there's this constant cycle of things happening, right?
Yeah.
And then there's this bigger oscillation, which is the loss of someone, which is like, my God, it just hits you, right?
Yeah.
So what it has taught me in a weird way is that actually grief, although very visceral, isn't real. Yes, we feel it's real. We like to say, you know, I feel it, so it's real. If someone says to you, I think I like you, or I feel I like you, you know, then we say, oh, they feel it, it's more real. So nothing drops you into this deepest layer of realness than death. It wrenches your heart, it breaks your spirit.
Yeah.
It makes little things nostalgic, and fleeting things just play back like a broken record or a love song, right? It just goes in so many ways. But at the center of it, it's teaching us the lesson of impermanence, that nothing stays forever, and there's a beauty of what is here. So those 4 years that Kai lived, when I think of the years I've lived, you know, I remember when he died, I said, you know, Kai, if you're not afraid to die, then I should not be afraid to live. I remember thinking that if he could face the end of his life and he could meet the light, or you know, merge, whatever we call it. Well, now there's an array of different gods and goddesses and deities that could turn up to greet him when he died. But you feel this feeling of just, how to describe it, like a kind of a feeling that they've given you actually a gift in their passing to handle passing. So hopefully you can get to a point where whatever your day is, your last day, that you can say you've lived maybe not a perfect life, maybe not even a perfect or a life that's everything has gone in your way, but were you present? Did you live? And that's what Kai's taught me. So every day I imagine like I'm dying again. Like I wake up in the morning, I've got this weird ritual that kind of helps. I look in the mirror and I greet myself in a way that's like, who are you? I look in the mirror and I say, who are you today? And I'm like, okay, I'm a disheveled guy filming a yoga book in Kenya right now, right? Combing my hair this way. And then the next day I'm this, I'm that. And actually when I sit with myself and see my physical body in the morning and I look into my eyes and I meet my spirit, it starts with just absolute gratitude. Gratitude for that I get a chance to live today. Other people might not always have it easy. We might go through tough things or easy things, but what threads us all together is this feeling of who we know, who our spirit is. And I think that's really important, you know, that helps me looking in the mirror and then just who are you? And then being honest with that answer. I'm sad today. I'm happy today. This is difficult today. This is awesome today.
Yeah.
You know, so that who I amness, it's actually fortified, Rupert. There's not this kind of longing anymore. I didn't sit and lament, you know, Kai's passing. I think of all the life he could have had, but I also think spiritually, his life, when I had to imagine those Egyptian scales, and here's my life on one side, I've lived more, and here's Kai's life. These 4 years, boy, that soul lived and loved. So what a complete life.
Yeah.
So how can I measure his life was shorter than mine if I died tomorrow? In fact, I nearly died yesterday. I was out there with lions somewhere close to me. Death is in us. Death is when we cross the road. Death is everywhere, you know. So is life.
I know.
That's the key. Life is here, and that's something we must always live. Yeah, even though people have passed on.
That is wonderful. I love that. As you say, life is around and death is around. That's the cycle that we all live. That's our human experience. And I think, you know, you're absolutely right. What struck me when you were talking, Leo, was this word gratitude. And it's where I feel I am right now as well. You know, all those people, when I started thinking about this topic of grief and the human experience of grief, and totted up the people in my life that have had some impact on my processing of grief, from when I was 13 and my grandmother passed away, to then my grandfather, maternal grandmother, a dear friend, obviously my mum, my beloved auntie last year, my mum's friend and her husband, who sadly in November both passed away from COVID. And just, you think about all those people in your life and how, as you say, each of those journeys teaches you something, and something very profound. And as you're willing to open up to that and delve deep, I mean, you know, sometimes it has felt like processing grief is like open heart surgery without an anesthetic. Now, I've never had open heart surgery without an anesthetic or even with an anesthetic, general anesthetic, but it's like going deep down inside and kind of looking at this stuff. And actually, deep down in there is the pain, but there's also the creativity and the life and the gratitude and all these amazing things that, you know, you kind of bring to the table. And so, you know, I would say for me, that's been an amazing part of finding a way to process this experience that we all have with somebody's passing. And also when people share memories, like for my birthday, my aunt, Anafeba, my dad's sister, had sent me some photos, and one of them was a picture of her and her son, my cousin, and me and my mum. We were at a carnival, and it must have been in the 70s. And we're still not quite sure. She doesn't think it was a Notting Hill carnival, but it was some other carnival, who knows? And just remembering all those and feeling, wow, this amazing person was my mum. Yes, she died at 64. Yes, it was far too soon. Yes, it was bloody painful. But actually, wow, how lucky am I? And that's, you know, kind of where I sit with that now. So I think we're coming to a close now with our session today. And what I'd like to just ask each of you, it's been honestly amazing what you've shared, and I can't thank you enough. And I just want you to, if you wish to, say anything more about your experience to anyone who may watch this, stumble across this in any part of the world. Who knows how far-reaching this may become. And so maybe if I can start with you first, Leo.
I feel right now I feel like my friend's playing the TV a little too loud. So can I just, thanks. We have an outdoor living space. You know what, Rupa, I must say to you, Rupa could ask me to go to the edge of the earth and I'll be like, I meet you there. Rupa could say, Leo, let's go into Pret a Manger and do crazy Bhangra dancing, and I will be there. But right now, trying to hold a Zoom session, literally being in the middle of the jungle where there could be a snake on the floor, there could be a coconut dropping on my head, and then there's my friend on Netflix just going, oh, I wonder what's happening in Breaking Bad. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to coordinate the forces of nature, and you're just there watching Breaking Bad. It's just like, so I think this helps actually. This helps to laugh.
Yes.
To have laughter, and I think just being around friends and letting yourself just feel good. That's really, really helped me. And to not carry a guilt to it. End of the day, we don't know people's karma. We don't know their sacred contracts. We don't know what is a perfect life or a long life or a short life or whatever. We just don't know, right? Mm. So this is one of the key things we have to really consider, is that we can't sort of plan what grief means to us and what it will continually mean. But I think it's just I think Leonardo da Vinci said it beautifully, and sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel. People have said that before. See, I think the whole of your life you are preparing to die. So the whole of your life is when I think of getting back to the scales, my life and Kai's life, his life would have been weighed much more in terms of quality of those 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So I feel it's really important for there to be that feeling that you can just connect with people, laugh, but not do something I did, which is I used a lot of making other people laugh as a way to lift my spirit. I think it spurred a side of me, which I don't know. I think I make people feel good. That's kind of what I do with yoga, what I do. I love interacting with people. And then when the grief happened, I did that a lot. And then I was stopping. No one would do it for me. So it's actually not just to make others laugh, but to let quirky things, that just you find funny. And you could be in the middle of shopping market aisle and something just cracks you up and just laugh. You know what I mean? Just so laugh at things. Don't just be the person making other people feel good, and or the person making other people feel bad. There's no, one of the most beautiful things, someone I love told me once, and it was amazing, was there's no rank in pain. There's no rank. There's no high, there's no low, there's no rank in pain. Whether someone breaks their toe or someone loses their mum, or we have a nation in the pandemic, or someone lost someone today, that there's no rank in pain. It's not, my pain is greater because I lost this person and I could not do this, or your pain. It's like, well, pain is pain. It doesn't feel good, but ultimately it's a signal. It's a signal. And what pain now is an ultimate signal for me with grief. It's just reminding me to live up to Leonardo da Vinci's maxim, which is the whole of my life I'm preparing to die. And when I'm there, I can merge. I'm like, hey, that was great. Nothing left to do back home. That's kind of what it's supposed to do.
That's brilliant.
And get rid of my global Netflix membership.
I like it. And I think, that's a really good philosophy to live by. And certainly we want you living for a lot longer. So don't you be preparing to go anywhere just yet, Leo, lovely Leo. I think the thing about laughter is so important. And sometimes when you hit on the depth of pain, that real sense of laughter, like I was saying, inside there's our creativity, there's our joy, there's our sadness, but that can really come to the surface. So I do really like that idea. And Rowan, sort of a final word from you, anything that you might like to share for anyone that may, as I say, stumble across this video, that may watch this. Please share this with your contacts and your friends and colleagues at work, family, because we just don't know where and how and when somebody might need to hear something, as we have heard. I've certainly heard things throughout my time of processing grief. So Rowan, over to you. What might you like to finish up saying?
I think like the most important thing surrounding grief that I want to make sure anyone who is grieving or knows someone who is to know is that like there's no right or wrong way for someone to experience grief. Like I think there's a lot of things that are told to people how you should be feeling, what you should be doing. You know, some people don't feel anything, some people feel really upset, some like there's no right or wrong way, and also at the same as well there's no right way to express it either. So if someone wants to post about it on social media, let them. If someone wants to be not talk about it, let them. You know, it's good to talk to people, but if you're not ready to do it, then don't force that person into it. Don't force yourself into talking about it if you're not ready, because otherwise it's just going to have a negative effect on you if you're not ready to do that. So yeah, I think that's the most important thing to me surrounding grief, is that there's no rule book, there's no right or wrong way to deal with it or to express it. And you know, it's up to you, you know, what is right for you and how you want to deal with it. So if it's happening to you, you know, don't feel guilty if you're not feeling sad on an anniversary, or if you're not feeling sad in, like, you know, days that you should be, and then random days you are feeling sad. You know, that's completely normal. There's yeah, so I think that's the most important thing to me about grief. Yeah,
I think that's brilliant, and that's such an important thing that you've mentioned, Rowan, and I really appreciate that, because as you say, there's no rule book, there's no blueprint. Everybody processes it differently, everybody's time is different, and so, you know, just having that understanding and that appreciation for each person and their unique bespoke experience of grief is just so crucial. For me, I suppose the last kind of final thought is that, you know, spend time with your loved ones. None of us are going to be here forever. Make that time. I think during this last year with this COVID pandemic, for many people, there's been people have reflected, thought about their priorities, thought about how they're connecting with people, what's important, who's important, and how those relationships make them feel and nourish them. And so, you know, that's really important. Once people are gone, they're gone. In their physical presence, they're always with you, of course, but, you know, enjoy that time with them. I think the other thing that I would say about grief is that very few times is it neatly tied up in a bow, where, you know, you've said everything, you've done, you know, all of that kind of stuff. Some people go through experiences with grief where things are left unfinished. They don't necessarily have a good relationship. It's acrimonious, or it's challenging, or they haven't seen that person, or there's lots of things unspoken. And again, you know, that is sometimes how life can be. And, you know, people navigate their way through that in their own way. And so I just wanted to say that, because, you know, people go through all sorts of different experiences with grief. You know, we can say, well, you know, if you've had a fallout with somebody, do try and make it up before they pass or you pass. But actually, that isn't always life. You know, life can be very gritty and raw, and, you know, things, as I say, don't tie up neatly in a bow. So just to be kind of mindful and supportive of people in your life where that could be their experience of grief is one thing that I would like to say. So huge thank you, honestly, to both Rowan and Leo today. You've been amazing. You've been very brave, and you've been so incredibly articulate and really shared things that are going on deep within. And I really appreciate that. I can't thank you enough for that. And so we finish our kind of live recording now, and this will be posted up about 8 o'clock this evening, Sunday the 7th of March. And please do, and both of you as well, comment if there's anything that you also wish to say, and anybody who's watching this, you know, let's start a conversation about this. This is one of a number of topics that I will talk about in my RVS Does CCC, because things need to be spoken about. People want to talk about things. It's important that we talk about things, and we don't keep things hidden within ourselves and within our communities and within our society. And grief was really the first topic I wanted to bring up, because we've all felt that this year, and not necessarily with somebody passing away, but a loss of some description through this global pandemic. So, and please do feedback as well. You know, your feedback, your criticisms, your constructive comments, whatever they may be, help me be a better host and help me, you know, kind of develop myself. I'm all for that. So, you know, go ahead. Take care, stay safe, keep well, and I'll see you for the next session, which is scheduled for Sunday, the 21st of March, in a fortnight's time. And I will put out an ad the day before, Saturday, the 20th of March, of what that topic will be. So, you know, from all of us here in sunny London, sunny Stoke, sunny Kenya, thanks for watching. And Titi, just for you, because I know you love me speaking a bit of Italian. Tanti baci e abbrachi. Take care, everybody. And away from Rowan and Leo as well.
See you guys.
Bye.
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 Okay.
See ya.
I think that's a cut. Brilliant.